From his long fall, Izuku would slowly awaken. As he did so, he could feel a buzz coming from his chest. There was a smartphone taped to it. He could tell that the Joker was speaking through the other line, a way of communication, as it were. Izuku merely took out the chip in the card of the phone before crushing it and placing it into his communications device, now allowing for a private channel between he and the infamous Clown Prince of Crime. Oh, fancy new tech, eh? Not like anything we used to have. But still, you've gotta love the world of modern science. Still, I must say, I am rather impressed with you, boyo. I've been keeping a track of you for a while now. I was content, ready to just wither away and die. And then, suddenly I look onto the news and what do I see? A fangled new Batman stepping onto the scene. I was able to tell instantly that you weren't my bats. My bats is one of a kind, a true original, a one of one. You couldn't even begin to compare. But still, you do have your charm. New suit, newfangled tech, gadgets, and gizmos. You take after the brute, but still, I see something else in you. There's not a veil of darkness, a shroud of mystery. You might wear the suit, you might even have the name, but are you really the Bat? Well, we'll see. Because now, you're getting put to the test. The big leagues, kid. I sure hope you're ready for it. I wonder if you can really hack it, if you can really take the grind. My Bat was able to... Izuku turned off communications with the infamous clown, not wanting to listen to him prattle on and on about the good old days. He switched his communications to Bruce, who was not in a very good mood with Izuku. I warned you not to get involved with him. I know, sir. I'm sorry. I was just... Save it. There's no point thinking about the past now. What's done is done. Honestly, compared to everything that he's ever done in the past, this is rather tame. You should consider yourself lucky. But for now, you need to stay focused on the mission at hand. On top of finding out about Protocol 10, we need to get that cure. A tiny drone, off in the distance, would fly to where Izuku was, extending a small needle in the vial. It extracted some of Izuku's blood. I'm going to get this back to Kelly. She's going to take it to any of the local hospitals. If Joker's truly been shipping out his blood, then we need to stop it from being used by potential victims. For now, you focus on getting the cure from Freeze by any means, and afterwards we'll proceed from there. For now, keep your head on a swivel and stay sharp. I'm calibrating the cowl to find the coldest point in Arkham City. That's likely where Freeze will be held up. Even in the mist of December, it'll lead you right to him. From there, Izuku would exit the steel mill, now with the situation becoming even more dire. The Joker, and his ever-growing posse, had proven to be nothing more but a dead end. And now, on top of trying to figure out what Protocol 10 was, he had to switch his attentions to getting back to Cure. Izuku had read through the old files of Bruce and his various rogues through his time serving as the Bat. And in all that time, for all of the villains that he faced and came across, each one had their own story, unique and different in their own way. No two were ever truly alike. Case in point, Dr. Victor Freeze, aka Mr. Freeze. A second-generation quirk user, more on the older side, was born with an ice quirk, which had dramatic effects on his body. Contrary to popular belief, just because you were born with a quirk, it didn't mean that was necessarily a good thing. There were many in the world who considered having their quirk to be more of a curse than a gift. Because you see, every now and again, you run into a situation where a person's own body may not have been fully adept at using a quirk. Take Todoroki, for example. His body, his physiology, it was made perfectly to use half hot, half cold. Endeavor, or Bakugo, their bodies were genetically made specifically to be able to handle the flame and explosion quirk respectively. But every now and again, you'd run into a situation where someone's body wasn't strong enough to handle the power that they were born with. As such, the more that they tried to use that power, well, the worser the consequences became. And for Victor Freeze, he ran into such a problem. When it came to using his quirk at a young age, he was able to expel great walls and constructs of ice. However, the more he did so, the more anemic his body became, to the point where his body was now dependent on being in sub-zero temperatures. He couldn't go out in regular weather, more or less in great forms of heat, without, in a sense, melting away. His body had to be kept in cool temperatures, and whenever he used his quirk, it only added to his situation. That's what led him to create the freeze gun. The freeze gun was, in a sense, a way of conducting his power. You could say that the freeze gun was one of the earliest forms of weapons being used to work in conjunction with one's own quirk. Technically speaking, Mr. Freeze didn't have to use the gun, but using the gun greatly reduced the effects that the quirk took on his body, even if it was too little too late. But of course, you know the story of Victor Freeze, the story of his wife Nora, who contracted a rare and incurable disease. Even into this day and time, there was still little that could be done for her. The last anyone had heard of Victor Freeze, he had reclused himself to an unknown area where he continued to work on trying to cure his wife. But, for some reason, he had managed to be captured and brought to Arkham City for whatever reason. Whatever the case, it seemed that he had gotten into dealings with the Joker, and that things turned sour. Now they seemed to be at odds with one another, and the Joker was desperate for a cure. As such, the cowl would lead Izuku to the old GCPD building, no longer in use, and was likely that Freeze was using the old forensics lab, and seeing the icicles protruding from parts of the building, safe to say he was keeping it on ice, especially during the winter season. Izuku would activate his detective mode, seeing that there were 5 gunmen stationed all around the GCPD. They seemed to be members of Penguin's gang, likely trying to get inside for whatever reason. Although this did make Izuku wonder, what did Cobblepot have to do with Freeze? Even more so, why did Cobblepot get back into villainy? It's not as simple as you might think. Despite not having a quirk, Cobblepot is still just as dangerous, Bruce would tell Izuku. He has business dealings with all sorts of people, both legal and illegal. If I had to guess why he was brought in, it seemed like his illegal affairs finally caught up with him. But I just don't get it. You busted Cobblepot all the time back in the day. I mean, you did it so much it became more routine than anything else. So why hasn't he seemed to stop ever since? What drives him? Why does he keep going? Trying to get back to his family's old status. The Cobblepot family were one of the wealthiest families in Japan, alongside my own. But his family, they made poor dealings, working with villains and other shady organizations, doing things not by the book. Because of that, eventually they fell on hard times. Their family went into debt and their wealth had all but crumbled away. Things that his family used to own soon fell into my family's possession, and safe to say, he's never been right ever since. Cobblepot has one of the few greatest superpowers in the world. And what's that? Money. For all the quirks in the world, for all the superpowers you can be given, there's only one power in this world that can rival that, and that's purely money, Izuku. You have enough money, you can buy and do just about anything. You can get yourself out of almost any situation. Cobblepot lives by that philosophy, and, for better or for worse, he has a way of getting his hands on money. That's why he shouldn't be underestimated. Even if he doesn't have a quirk, he's as dangerous as any villain with one. Because he may not have a quirk, but he's got more than enough money to hire some of the most evilest individuals that do. And for the right price, they'll do anything he says. So stay on guard. Izuku would do so as he traversed through the rooftops of the old GCPD building. Taking out the gunmen one by one, he would eventually break through the frozen doors before getting to the inside that were crawling with gunmen as well, who seemed to be looking for something. Izuku hid in the ceiling, taking out the gunmen one by one, although this would prove to be rather troublesome, as they had specially made heartbeat monitors, allowing for Cobblepot to be aware of whenever his goons were taken out. Eventually it came down to the last one, who didn't have the strong will of heart, and well, he pretty much gave the word about where Cobblepot was held up, in the old museum. It was just then that Izuku could feel tremors in the ground. Freeze had been taken by Penguin, but why? And more so, what the hell was going on outside? By the time Izuku had managed to get out, he saw the bridges that connected various points of Arkham City were starting to be blown up by Penguin's crew, more than likely trying to keep Joker's men trapped in a particular area to try to gain what more territory that they could. Things were starting to get intense, but there was something else that was bothering Izuku as well. This was a place that was supposed to house super criminals, right? So why did it seem like almost everyone didn't have a quirk? There were a few that did, yes, but they seemed to be far and few between. By a rough estimate, Izuku would guess to say that only 5% of the current population here in Arkham City were actually quirk users. Everyone else were gunmen, weapons dealers, things of that nature. But why? Why didn't they have quirks? There couldn't be that many quirkless villains or criminals or anyone with priors just running around. There had to be more to it. Izuku would rocket towards the museum, attempting to get to the bottom of the situation. And Penguin's thugs, they were all armed, stationed at various points throughout Arkham City, guarding the old subway stations that surrounded the museum, as well as having men guard it like an iron fortress. Izuku would come through to the main entranceway, where there were almost 30 to 40 thugs waiting for him. Just like the boss said, the bat's trying to come right through the front door. Yeah, little bat, but you didn't expect to see all of us here now, did ya? There's a price on your head. We're gonna be eating good, especially once we kick your ass. So we can do it the easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours. Izuku found himself surrounded by the gang of thugs. He was psyching himself up. Taking on 30, almost 40 of them all at once? That was going to be a lot easier said than done. But from out of nowhere, an explosion could be heard. A couple of groans in agony as 3 individuals would jump to Izuku's side, all 4 of them standing back to back. Looks like we made it just in time, you damn nerd. Even under the red mask, Izuku knew exactly who it was. Katsuki Bakugo, as well as another familiar face, a boy with a black and white mask scarred with a red X, Hitoshi Shinzo. And there was a third, someone that he had heard about but hadn't had the formal pleasure of meeting, another young masked hero, clad in black and blue. Sorry for the late introductions. Nice to finally meet you in person, you know. Stay focused, Bakugo would say. We need to deal with these losers first. The 4 heroes now stood back to back, covering each other's blind spots as they took hold in fighting against the armed thugs. Izuku and Bakugo would work together in tandem, while the Red X and the newly dubbed Nightwing would take hold. Izuku took note of the new Nightwing, watching as he was able to glide around the ground effortlessly, as if there was no friction or nothing at all, like he was skating on ice, or, in better terms, as if he were walking on the sky itself, with no restrictions, nothing at all. Together, the 4 would manage to take down all of Penguin's thugs, leaving them the entryway into the museum. Izuku would attempt to use the cryographic sequencer, using it to try to bypass the security console code to the museum walls. However, for some reason, he wasn't able to get a good reception or a signal. They could overhear the Penguin through the loudspeaker cackling, telling him that he didn't want him breaking into his private abode, and that if he were wise, he'd beat it before he got himself hurt. I'm not getting a signal, Izuku would say. He's probably using some form of jammer, Kochi would chime in. Oh, by the way, I'm Kochi Hamawari, the boy dressed in the blue and black would say, lifting his mask just long enough to show his face as he and Izuku would shake hands. I heard about you, Izuku would say. You were working with Mr. Grayson, right? Yeah, I met him a while back when I was doing vigilante work. Vigilante work? Izuku said. Oh, that's right. You're the vigilante boy who was wearing that All Might hoodie. It was really sick, by the way. Cool design. I don't know where you got it from. I've been trying to find it ever since I saw you in the photos, but I had no way of... Alright, enough with the fanboying, Bakugo would say, before slapping Izuku in the back of the head. How stupid can you be? After you got arrested at UA, everyone went into a frenzy. So far, Principal Nezu and Mr. Aizawa have been talking with the police trying to get you out. Your mom's in a panic, the school's on high alert. Then how did you get here? Mr. Drake pulled me out. He was able to get me out for work studies, you know? I was able to use that as an excuse. I booked it towards the cave and got dressed before getting here. I didn't know I'd be having backup. Yeah, same excuse for me, Shinso would say. I don't go to UA, Kochi said, so getting out wasn't really much of a problem. What's going on the outside? It's panic, that's what it is. You know, this place isn't really up to code or lawful, Kochi said. I don't know how the Hero Association even allowed for a place like this to get built in the first place. I mean, honestly, in just a short span of time, this is probably the second largest supervillain prison in Japan, just second to Tartarus. He wasn't able to get villains moved out of Tartarus? Izuku would ask. Some, but none of the major ones. No one like All for One or anyone like that. They're being kept under strict watch by the government itself. Even Strange doesn't have that kind of pull, apparently, Bakugo would say. But still, nothing about this place makes any sense. I've been trying to get to the bottom of what Protocol 10 is, and you need to focus on the damn cure. What, you thought we didn't figure that out? You're not doing this on your own. I'll be fine, Kachan. You don't have to worry about me. It's not just about you. That cure is important to everyone. You try going in acting like some lone gunslinger, and you're gonna end up dead. You're right. Right now, I need to find Mr. Freeze. And to do that, we need to get into this museum. Well, before we do that, we're going to have to find those jammers. Chances are, if he's using them, he'll have them stationed all around the surrounding area, possibly as a way of keeping us from getting inside, Shinso would say. So all we gotta do is find the jammers, and then we'll be able to take them out. Looking at one of the unconscious guardmen, Izuku would pull out one of his handheld radios, crushing it and taking out the encryption chip. Plugging it into the sequencer, he was able to at least hack into the radio frequency that Penguin's thugs were using. That way, they could listen in to what was going on and to where all of the jammers were being put into place. The first one was just 2 buildings over. The boys would quickly ascend to the rooftops, taking out the gunmen surrounding the terminal and destroying them one by one. The first 2 were simple enough, but it was the last one that was going to require a little bit of trekking. They've already taken out 2 of the jammers. Damn it! And you said there's more of them? Oh, bloody. It's all right, Mr. Cobblepot. It's nothing to worry about. We've got the last jammer. It's being moved underground into the subway stations. Good. You better make sure it stays that way. I'm sending a couple of more men your way for backup. I'm warning you, Sonny. By no means should that jammer be destroyed. Otherwise, I'll have your head, you understand me? Yes, sir, Mr. Cobblepot, sir. They won't be getting through. We promise. I'll hold you to it. So they've moved the last one underground, huh? Kochi said. Shouldn't be too much of a big deal. All we gotta do is get underground and take out the jammer. Actually, I think I got a way to do that. Finding one of Penguin's thugs that were just strolling around, Shinso would use his quirk Brainwash. Catching his attention, he would ask him a question. Who goes there? Huh? Who said that? That's right. You're gonna listen, and you're gonna do as I say. Me and my friends here need to get to that last jammer, but we don't have time to go around fighting with all of your thugs. So, why don't you do us a favor? Show us the fastest route to the last terminal, a route that'll have little to no security. You think you can do that for us? Yeah, I can do that, no problem. If you take the eastern subway station, Penguin's got 2 guards at the main entrance and 8 above ground. However, if you take the northern entranceway, we don't have many guarding that area. You'll take that entranceway and move over the Wonder City Pass. Once you do, you'll make your way to the northeast corridor. That'll lead you straight through the sewer station, and you'll come out on the other side, heading towards the main down front. There you'll find the last terminal. There's a security code pass. You got the security code pass? The goon would nod. Give it to us. Once they had all the information that they needed, a quick strike to the back of the head was all that was needed to knock him out. Kochi just looked at him rather scared. You were able to do all of that by just brainwashing? Jeez, you are scary. Yeah, I get that a lot, Shinso said. Now let's move. As the boys made their way through the respective paths, avoiding most of the guards along the way, Izuku couldn't help but wonder, how exactly did they get into Arkham City? It wasn't easy, Kochi said. We had to go through the damn sewers. It was disgusting. And what's worse, there was a big pile of crap down there. Multiple piles of crap, Shinzo said. Not normal. I think I saw a finger in there. Kochi was trying to hold his gut. Chances are it's Croc. The boys could hear through the intercoms of their connected device. It was Bruce. I was able to patch in. Once you get closer to the terminal, I'll probably fade out once more. You boys have done well so far. Continue to stick together, and you'll make it. Doing as was told, they would eventually find where the last terminal was being positioned, underground, far from the others. Once this last terminal was taken out, getting into the museum would be no problem. Along the way, Kochi would explain why he had come in particular. Of course, Dick Grayson, the former Nightwing, of course, was working as the lieutenant for the GCPD, along with his wife, Barbara Gordon, who was now the new commissioner. Under normal circumstances, even under ones as dire as this, he would have gladly put on the old suit and came back into the field. But serving as the lieutenant for the GCPD, it kind of prevented him from getting back into the field. He had sent a few of their own officers on the inside as a way of spying around to see what information they could get. A few had even infiltrated Cobblepot's crew, but they hadn't heard any word from them in the last 14 days. He was getting worried, and with Izuku's arrest and everything that followed, Kochi was called into action. A boy who had been working as a vigilante and was found by Nightwing. Originally, vigilantism was something that couldn't be tolerated, but Nightwing saw a lot of potential in the kid, and seeing as how everyone else was getting their mantles passed down these days, he figured he'd found the one that could potentially take his. And thus, the new Nightwing, Kochi Hamawari, was now in action. Before long, the boys would find the entryway to where the last terminal was placed. Each boy would sit atop of a gargoyle in the shadows, watching the gunmen from down below. One by one, they would all be picked off, until eventually the room fell silent. The only one that could be heard was Cobblepot through the radio, screaming obscenities as the last terminal was destroyed. I give you one job. One bloody job. Stick up a couple of stupid terminals and deal with a couple of miscreants running around in damn bird mask. But you can't even do that. You can't even do that, can you? Hell, I would ask you to go steal some candy from babies, but you'd probably stink it up in doing that too. You know what? I hope you're lying there. I hope you're lying there with broken ribs and collapsed lungs, choking on your own blood. Because I swear, after I'm done dealing with this bat wannabe and his super friends, you're all next! He doesn't sound too pleased, Kochi would say, as Bakugo destroyed the last terminal with a well-concentrated explosion. That's his problem. Now we just gotta make our way back to that damn museum. With that, the boys would quickly sneak back out from which they came. As they did so, they could hear a phone ringing in the distance. Say, have you guys heard the phone ringings all around this place? Midoriya would ask. Yeah, from a bunch of old telephones. Why? Bakugo asked him back. It's just, they shouldn't really be working. They're all supposed to be out of commission, so how the hell are they back online? Not our problem right now. We need to focus on getting into that damn museum. Returning back to the entranceway, they were finally able to break into the security system. Upon doing so, they would go into the old Gotham Museum. It was the first of its kind, to say the least. It was where a lot of innovative technology was shown on full display, but of course, it eventually got old and rusted, and eventually another new one was formed, and this place became all but abandoned. There was the infamous Iceberg Lounge that was known to host some notorious individuals in the Gotham Prefecture, and it was Cobblepot's old stomping grounds. As they made their way through, they found one of those officers that Kochi was looking for, although he was being held at blade point by a couple of the Penguin's henchmen. After dispatching of them and getting the confirmation code from the officer in question, he would explain that his team had been discovered. It's probably a mole or something along those lines, and that Cobblepot had been beating on them and holding them hostage. So now they had hostage cops that they needed to save. After making sure that the officer was taken somewhere secure, the four boys would walk together, side by side, as they could hear a roar coming in the distance, like a crowd of people were cheering for something. As they made their way to the entrance of where that roaring was coming from, they all stepped in stride as they opened the gate and made their way in. Looking up, there were rafters of prisoners and other gang members, all yelling and cheering as there was a lone cop that came running towards them. The words, "Dead Cop," screwingly drawn on his chest. Please, help me. Oh. And there goes another little piggy. Now there's four of them. Let's see. A new wannabe Bat. A wannabe Nightwing. What's with the X? Trying to look all cool. Even a wannabe Red Hood. I know they're not the real ones. I mean, look at the size of them. They look like children. What is this? Halloween? Well, lads, it's obvious by the way you dress that you clearly weren't raised right, because no self-respecting parent will let their children walk around dressed like a couple of half-witted jackasses. So tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a chance. A chance to run away with the tails tucked between your legs, and you can go crying back to your mommies. You take off those pretty little masks. You show those scared, pathetic little faces of yours. You turn around, and you get the hell out of here. And your blood doesn't get stained all over the floors. Do you understand me? We were only here for Freeze and the hostages, Izuku said, as he looked up to Cobblepot. But now we're taking you down. Is that so? Trust me, this little bat impersonation you got going on here, it's cute, really. But that's as far as it goes. I clashed with the real Bat, and trust me, you're nothing like him. Not even close. Bakugo would be the next one to step forward, as he pulled a gun from his holster. Kachan, what are you? You're right, Bakugo would say. We're nothing like the ones that came before us. We're much worse. Because you see, unlike them, we just don't give a fuck. So here's how it's gonna go. You got to the count of 3 to get your ass down here and kiss my boot. Otherwise, I'm taking this boot and I'm shoving it up your 4-foot, fat penguin-looking head ass. 3, Bakugo yelled. He's funny. Really. You should be a comedian. Well, you won't live to be one. Hey, fellas, it's initiation day. You see all these scary guys around here? These are real men. Real killers. And I only allow the most ruthless into my organization. And the way I see it, we got 4 spots. So, whoever can kill these fake wannabe heroes and bring me their corpse on a silver platter can get in. Free drinks on me in the Iceberg Lounge. Cobblepot turned away as all of the thugs surrounded the boys once again. Good luck. You'll need it. This concludes My Hero Academia: The Dark Knight Returns. What If Deku Was Batman? Season 3, Part 3 of the Arkham City arc. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned tomorrow as we'll be continuing with My Hero Academia: The Dark Knight Returns. What If Deku Was Batman? Season 3, Part 4 of the Arkham City arc. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time. Protocol 10 will commence in 8 hours.